humid air of Eldridge enveloped me like a damp shroud as I eased my beat-up Honda into the town's quiet embrace on that fateful Tuesday evening. The vehicle groaned under the weight of my meager possessions. 3 weathered suitcases bulging with faded clothes and mementos, a coffee maker dented from years of moves, and a guilt so profound it seemed to anchor the car to the cracked asphalt of Main Street. The journey from Los Angeles had spanned 12 grueling hours, my muscles stiff and my mind heavy with the ghosts of a past I couldn't outrun. Eldridge unfurled before me like a sepia-toned photograph preserved in time, its 4-block Main Street lined with brick buildings that hadn't evolved since the 1950s. A diner with checkered floors worn smooth by decades of boots, a library with tall, narrow windows that seemed to peer into the soul, and beyond the last house, cornfields stretching like a restless green ocean, their stalks swaying in the evening breeze with an almost hypnotic rhythm. No one had warned me about the windows, a detail so mundane yet so critical, the kind of omission that births terror in small towns where secrets fester beneath polite smiles. The locals greeted me with warmth as I parked outside Maggie's diner, their friendliness a jarring contrast to the exhaust-choked ambition of LA, where I'd spent 20 years as a cop, where dreams curdled into the stench of failure and regret. The air here carried a rich, earthy scent of freshly turned soil and hay, laced with an elusive sweetness that danced on the edge of my perception. Perhaps wildflowers or the faint residue of ripened corn, utterly foreign to LA's acrid tang of gasoline and broken hopes. A woman in her 60s, her apron dusted with flour from a day's baking, stepped from the diner's doorway, her presence a beacon of small-town hospitality. "You must be Marcus," she said, her voice warm and weathered like the planks of an old barn. "I'm Maggie. Heard you rented the Hartwell cottage." Word traveled fast in Eldridge, a comforting ripple after years of anonymity in the city's sprawl. I climbed out, stretching muscles that protested after the long drive, my joints popping like gunfire in the stillness, and expressed hope of securing the keys that night. "Of course, hun," Maggie replied with a maternal lilt, vanishing into the diner only to re-emerge with a paper plate covered in foil. The aroma of apple pie, baked that morning, hit me like a memory from childhood, cinnamon and sugar weaving a spell that softened the edges of my exhaustion. I hadn't tasted homemade pie in 15 years, not since my mother's kitchen fell silent, and the gesture struck deeper than it should, a lump rising in my throat. "We look after each other here," she added, her smile genuine, crinkling the corners of her eyes with a sincerity I'd forgotten existed in a world of sirens and suspicion. I thanked her, the pie a tangible thread to this community I yearned to join. Yet the weight of my past, Sarah's lifeless form in that warehouse, my paralyzing hesitation, the internal affairs hearing that exonerated me but not my conscience, lingered like a shadow cast by the setting sun. With the pie in hand, I sought Harold at the hardware store, a man in faded overalls who handed me the cottage keys with a knowing nod, reciting my rental history, every lease, every eviction, before I could finish my introduction. The Hartwell cottage on Elm Street was a white clapboard sanctuary with a wraparound porch, its windows catching the dying light like welcoming eyes that promised solace. "Previous tenant left it in good shape," Harold said, jangling the keys with a rhythmic clink. "Quiet neighborhood. Folks mind their business but help when asked. You'll fit right in." Inside, the 2-bedroom layout felt like a palace compared to my LA studio, its cigarette-stained walls and flickering fluorescent lights a distant nightmare. The kitchen's windows faced the cornfield, a vast expanse that seemed to breathe with the wind, while the living room boasted built-in bookshelves and a fireplace that crackled with the promise of warmth. That first night, I sat on the porch, savoring Maggie's pie as fireflies blinked like tiny lanterns in the corn, the darkness a restful void unlike the city's cacophony. No sirens wailing, no screams piercing the night, no radio calls of "Officer Down" that haunted my dreams. Morning brought birdsong instead of traffic's roar, and as I brewed coffee on the porch, the clean air stung my lungs, a purity that felt almost alien. A creaking step underfoot prompted a mental note to fix it, but then my gaze fell on a sign before the town hall, a weathered wooden board, its paint faded from a once vibrant blue, declaring in careful official script, "Town Ordinance 1901. Don't look out windows after 3 a.m. The phrasing gnawed at me, a detective's instinct flaring despite my retirement, its emphasis on looking rather than noise or curfew hinting at dangers I couldn't yet fathom. I sipped my cooling coffee, the taste bitter against the sweetness of the pie, and wondered what shadows this rule concealed. Eldridge's charm wove itself around me over the following days, its quiet streets a soothing balm to the raw nerves honed by 2 decades on the LAPD. The morning after my arrival, I unpacked amidst the cottage's gentle creaks, the wood settling as if welcoming me, and set to fixing the porch step with wood stain, screws, and sandpaper procured from Harold's store. The work felt purposeful, a stark contrast to the life-or-death split-second decisions that had defined my career, decisions that had cost Sarah her life. The physical labor grounded me, the scent of sawdust and stain a therapy for a mind replaying that warehouse moment. Harold's eyebrows rose when I mentioned my law enforcement past. Big city cop in Little Eldridge, that's quite a change, he mused, his tone gentle, perhaps sensing the invisible scars etched into my posture, the slump of shoulders that carried 20 years of grief. I nodded, grateful he didn't pry, the small-town courtesy a shield against the questions I dreaded. Why did you freeze? Why is Sarah dead? The days blended into a rhythm. Coffee at dawn, its steam curling into the cool air. Walks where neighbors waved from gardens lush with tomatoes and marigolds. Evenings reading on the porch as fireflies danced in the corn. The librarian, Ellen, a soft-spoken woman with a librarian's quiet grace, lent me books on local flora and history, asking with a gentle probe, "Staying long? As long as it takes?" I replied, evasive yet honest, her term fresh blood, lingering like a strange omen, its implications unclear but unsettling. By the end of my first week, I'd carved a fragile routine, the cottage a sanctuary where the past felt distant. Maggie invited me to the monthly potluck at the Methodist church basement, its long tables groaning under the weight of casseroles, pies, and dishes whose names I couldn't decipher. Perhaps a Midwestern delicacy lost to city life. The air buzzed with conversation, the clatter of serving spoons a symphony of community, and every face seemed to know the other's family histories stretching back 3 generations. Tom Bradley, a man my age with calloused hands from the grain elevator, extended a firm handshake. "Marcus, right? Heard you're from Los Angeles. That must be quite an adjustment." "Good adjustment," I said, noting a flicker in his smile, a shadow of strain when he added, "It's peaceful here. We work hard to keep it that way." The warmth was genuine, a hearth fire against the cold of LA. But my cops I caught the quiet when I approached certain groups, the strained smiles when I probed local history, the nervous laughter deflecting questions about the 3 a.m. rule. Ellen's just tradition and Maggie's cookie distraction felt rehearsed, their eyes skittering away like startled deer. These people hid something, their skill at deflection honed by years of practice, and the why gnawed at me, a mystery begging for a detective's touch. The second week deepened my integration. I helped Tom fix a fence, the cornfields rustle a constant companion, replaced Mrs. Henderson's mailbox post with a steady hand, and tilled a vegetable garden behind the cottage, the soil rich and dark under my fingers. Physical labor dulled the replay of Sarah's death, the dimly lit warehouse, the suspect's sudden move, my hesitation, the gunshot that silenced her forever, the internal affairs hearing that cleared me but not my soul. Nights were the hardest, the silence amplifying my regrets, the cottage's walls echoing with what if? By the end of week 2, sleep improved, a fragile peace settling in, the routine a lifeline. Then, on a restless Sunday night bleeding into Monday, at 3:05 a.m., insomnia struck. The bedroom felt stuffy, the air thick with memories, so I rose for water and fresh air. The kitchen window framed a street bathed in moonlight, its silver glow casting deep shadows between houses. Everything seemed normal, peaceful, until I saw him. A man walked down Elm Street, his movements too smooth, too deliberate, his dark suit an anomaly at this hour. Squinting, I discerned no face, only smooth, faintly glowing skin where features should be. My pulse surged, 20 years of training kicking in, but my service weapon, locked in the bedroom safe, was out of reach. He stopped, his head turning with mechanical precision toward my window, a weight of scrutiny despite his eyeless gaze. Then he vanished, the street empty, leaving a void where certainty once stood. Rational explanations, tired eyes, stress, the weight of retirement, warred with instinct screaming danger. I checked every lock, every window, the metallic tang of fear coating my tongue, and lay awake, the 3 a.m. rules menace now a personal threat etched into my bones. Morning light filtered through the curtains, a weak attempt to banish the night's unease, and I sought distraction in a library book Ellen had recommended, History of Eldridge County. Its pages, filled with dry details of crop rotations and prairie settlements, offered a respite from memories, until page 127 stopped me cold. The tradition of the night watch began in 1901 following a series of unexplained disappearances. Town founders instituted strict protocols for evening safety, establishing customs that persist to this day. These measures have proven effective in keeping the town safe from external influences. The cryptic phrase external influences and a footnote hinting at safety measures tied to the ordnance sign fueled an unease that settled like damp fog. I closed the curtains tight, planning an evening routine to stay vigilant. The cornfields rustle a whisper of secrets I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. Day 15 dawned with a chill that seeped into my bones despite the late summer warmth blanketing Iowa, sharpening my senses. Helping Tom fix a fence, the physicality a bomb, I remarked on the quiet. "We like it that way," he said, his grip tightening on the hammer, veins bulging with unspoken tension. No dogs barking at night, no kids playing late. It's almost too quiet. Folks here respect the peace we maintain. The phrase echoed, the rule's repetition on every mailbox, etched into wood and metal with obsessive care. Feeling deliberate, a ward against something unseen. Pressing Tom about the rule, he cut me off. "Some traditions run deep. Best to respect them." His finality left me standing in the lengthening shadows of the cornfield, its stalks whispering a sound like distant voices speaking in tongues I couldn't decipher. Day 16 drew me back to the library, questions gnawing at my peace. Ellen's nervousness peaked, her movements quick and bird-like as she shelved returns, her hands trembling. "Looking for anything specific?" she asked, avoiding my gaze. "Local history, the town's founding, early records. Maybe something about local customs?" Her hands stilled, a deer caught in headlights. "What kind of customs?" "The 3 a.m. rule." "Where did it come from?" "Oh, that..." She forced a laugh, brittle as dry leaves. "Just old superstition, you know how small towns are." But her fingers shook, and a locked drawer labeled Town Records 1900s in faded ink caught my eye. Slipping in during her absence, I picked the lock with skills from my rookie days, finding birth certificates, property deeds, and a journal. Its cramped, hurried handwriting, written in fear, revealed the watchers. Faceless figures enforcing a 1901 pact after disappearances, punishing rule breakers with 3 strikes. David Park's fate, taken, not gone, confirmed by Ray's list, tied my sightings to a pattern. Day 18, sleepless again, footsteps at 3:10 a.m. drew me to the window. 2 faceless figures stood under a street lamp, their blank heads turning in unison, my pistol futile as they faded, leaving a metallic scent. Day 20, Ray's call listed 3 missing since 1990, all night-related, locals claiming departures. A 1923 report hinted at rituals to appease entities, buried by the department, its banishment notes a glimmer of hope. Day 22, I unlocked the library's basement, finding a ledger in a trunk labeled Eldridge Pact 1901. It detailed 1901 murders, drained children, mutilated adults, leading to a bargain. Silence after 3 a.m. for protection, the watchers enforcing it, taking 1 rule breaker yearly. A banishment ritual, salt, iron, ancient words at the oldest oak, offered salvation. Day 25, at 3:15 a.m., scratching on my window brought 3 watchers, their voices mimicking Sarah's, accusing me. Day 27, I prepared salt from Maggie, an iron crowbar from Harold, a lighter from my pocket. The oak symbols pulsed, and at midnight, I began the ritual. Watchers attacked, but the salt held until I burned the ledger, severing the pact. They dissolved, The fog lifted, and Eldridge breathed free. Day 31. Sunlight bathed the town. Maggie's tears confirmed the end. A carved stone beneath the oak hinted at other pacts. Have you faced a truth too heavy to ignore? Would you break a curse at personal cost? My work continues.